Hey, friends, welcome back to the Do Cool Shit podcast. I am super excited to have our second guest today, Michael De La Pava, aka
Yes.
MDLP, who is a self proclaimed really good at podcasts. So
Yeah, it's amazing. My mom says so, so obviously it's like totally true, right?
that has to be weird. My mom gave me some brutal feedback
Uh,
on my.
my mom barely speaks English, so it sounds great to her. So she's adorable. But thank you so much for having me. I was actually super pumped when you asked me. So I was like, thank you for the honor. I never take this loosely. It's always very humble to be part of anyone's podcast to hear me talk about things. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've I don't know if you know, I've been wanting to start this podcast for like 2 years and I just didn't.
Hell yeah.
Procrastinating. And you have always been on my mind as someone that I really wanted to have just a hour-long conversation with. So,
That's thank you. It's super flattering. Thank you very much.
yeah, absolutely. So, I the things I know about you, because we've known each other for a few years, but we've never really
Yep,
had like in-depth conversation one-on-one. So,
correct.
for those who cannot see what Mike looks like, he's a somewhat intimidating looking person.
The head tattoos will do it. The head tattoos will do
Yeah,
it.
I think if we were walking down the street opposite directions, I might cross the street, Mike.
Hell yeah. You know what? I love it. I love it. That is really the whole point of having these flesh adornments. Like it's just it's like I want it to be, and it's funny you mentioned that because that was kind of always the task besides just always loving tattoos. I was like, man, if I look super intimidating, it'll be just 80% of the problems are good, especially growing up in Miami. Like, it's just easier to look intimidating than have to deal with shit, you know? And then you go somewhere with nice people and you're like, oh, fuck. This is why.
That's fair, but you got the
Uh,
personality to back it up. So, uh,
yeah, thank you. And it's like, it's funny because if somebody actually comes up to them, like, hey, how are you? You know, like, how you doing? You know, what's your favorite color? But it is always like you got to pass that barrier of the look, which is the whole point, right? And I like
yeah,
that. I don't mind it. I've never been one of these people that because I have head tattoos, I'm like, oh, don't judge me. I'm like, on the contrary, you know, I wear them for a reason, and yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, if you have one on the side of your face, you're gonna get some sort of reaction. That's not why I got it, but that's what happens.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you're a good example of like the don't judge a book by its cover type of thing, because something I really
Yeah.
appreciate about you is that you're very intelligent, very insightful, very deep about things,
Thank you.
very poetic, I would say.
Thank you. That's yeah, warrior poet is one of my favorite things ever. So
Oh,
I think
yeah,
that's one of the biggest titles. Yeah. I actually remember when we were doing in Paul's mentorship, we had to enter our writing into an AI.
yeah.
So I just entered a bunch of my Instagram posts, and my style of writing was called warrior poet. I'm like, this is just perfect. It's like ever since the Braveheart movie, I'm like, if there's anything I want to be looked at, is that. I'm like, Dear Diary, best thing ever, you know? I'm like, that was just the coolest moment. And it took AI for me to really be like, solidified the moment at 40, you know, but here we are.
I love yeah, that AI really, really got
Yeah.
you. Oh,
Yeah, it really drives it home. I'm like, oh, this computer described me as a warrior poet. I made it. Like I'm retiring today, you know?
I'm done, I
So
quit.
yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, so the other thing that I know about you is you have been a high level athlete for a really long time in various
Yeah.
sports.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
take us through that a little bit. Like, where did you
Sure.
start? What have you gone through? Because most recently it's been bodybuilding, but definitely was
Correct.
there from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you would have asked me when I first started sports that I'd do bodybuilding, I would have just laughed in your face. Not because I didn't respect it, I just never saw myself that way. I think when you represent or start to express yourself aesthetically and physically, it just never came to the forefront of my mind. I always seeked performance sports. That's what I was surrounded with as a child, you know, soccer and we come from a Colombian family, so soccer, cycling, running, they're really big triathletes in that country. So that's what I thought was always the idea, right? You don't really see a lot of Colombian bodybuilders until recently. So it wasn't really part of the culture I grew up at home. And all my friends, we played sports, going to the gym to lift weights wasn't something I grew up with. I respected it. My dad lifted weights. He was more of an Olympic weightlifter when he was younger. So when I first got into sports, it was just martial arts. I started at 14. I wouldn't call it a sport then. It was just to learn how to defend myself. And
Yeah.
obviously, I'm a nerd, so I played Street Fighter. So I'm like, oh, I want to play. I want to be like Muay Thai, And everything's guided by video games and comic books when you're a young kid, and at least for me. And that started the path. Once I came back from university, I said, okay, I want to fight. Yeah, I really do. I want to see what I'm made of. I want to see if I have what it takes. And I obviously don't come from a family of fighters or boxers. This was all kind of self-induced, if you have to really represent it anyway. And I started with Muay Thai fighting when I was 24. I had six amateur Muay Thai fights, which I fell in love with. I wanted to be a pro fighter. My dream was to go to Thailand and do the whole thing. And then obviously you grow up and things didn't go that way particularly. But once I stopped fighting, because I just dedicated my life to fighting as I do with all sports that I truly love,
Uh-huh.
I said, okay, I'm free now. Like now I can play whatever I want. And I've always wanted to play rugby. And Miami had a Divisions two men's league that plays pretty serious, bunch of grown ass men hitting each other. So
Yeah.
I got into rugby, I got into strongman. I decided I wanted to do all the things I wanted to grow up watching on TV. I just wanted to try that I had no exposure to, no experience. I didn't have friends that played rugby. And that was kind of always been kind of a part of my life is to either be the first one to take the step or create the step myself. It's
Right.
something I've inherited from my mom and myself. And it's just, I like doing that. So then I got into playing rugby. And then when I opened up my gym, obviously it was for strongman. So I became a competitive strongman. Powerlifting was part of that concept, Highland Games, which I competed pretty good at. And then now currently into bodybuilding, I'm into my what I call my bodybuilding dad years, where ultimately I think I was just having this conversation this morning. I used to identify myself very much with what I competed in, and
Right.
now it's obviously a deeper rooted ideology of why I compete and the horizon beyond the sport. And I realized that being an athlete is very indicative of who I am as is in my core to do something difficult, to overcome hardships. And that made the transition into bodybuilding very easy because it was not like I don't identify myself as a bodybuilder. I'm just a person that bodybuilds. And that makes transition into sport very easy.
Okay, so the pursuit of growth, like seeking out, doing hard things, seeing what you could do, your capabilities, that's kind of what made it easy for you to transition?
Y- Yeah, very much so. I as a young man, I was very that's not even too young, very self-destructive. And that came inherently. It came to uh, in a very immature way to prove a point to others, to
Uh,
myself. I felt like, well, if I can destroy myself the hardest, then nobody can fuck with me. And that personality type came from obviously insecurities and I don't mean this in a negative way. I have no regrets of who I was. I love that. It's just the truth. When you analyze yourself, you're like, where is this coming from? Oh, and in essence, it also made me develop some of the greatest friendships of my life. It put me in dark waters where I think ultimately it made me a much better leader. There was some rough patches there that really defined what I wanted out of life and not to end life. And these are very, I don't ever look back at things or go, oh, obviously we all have regrets, but that concept of that, I eventually grew into like, oh, there is a why behind this. There is something deeper that when I do something harder, it's not that I'm trying in the essence of destroying yourself, right? When you really look at it, if you do this in a scheduled positive, but way with conviction, there's a
uh,
lot of positive growth. If you do it in a certain way, you can really come out on top. Rather than slamming three Jameson bottles to the face, which I miss dearly, I'm like, well, why not choose something very hard that has the same transition? But I think in essence, where I found that is that you can still use self-destruction. I mean, bodybuilding, it's self-destruction. It's powerlifting. I mean, you're literally destroying yourself. But it doesn't hurt the people around you as much. And that took many, many years of maturity for me to realize that being that self-destructive animal, which has its place, has
uh-huh.
such a negative effect around me where I can still use self-destruction and this kind of masochistic pursuit of greatness, but inspire others to grow forward. I said, oh, this is it. And it was in pieces, right? It became pieces that finally came together. And It could be many things. I would say, obviously, maturity. I would also say that it was inspired by losing people that I love as much as gaining people I love. I never think that there is one thing more important than the other. Hardships as much as good situations. If anything, I lean more towards hard things have much more value. And that is a lesson that I've learned from not only myself, but speaking to some of the toughest motherfuckers I've ever met on the planet. And that is where I've become into this kind of aspect where I'm like, oh, okay, like this is really where I belong. But I had been doing it all along, not knowing the real reason, right? You kind of just smother it up. So
Mm,
yeah, that's how I kind of got in this position. I was just watching a study yesterday on I was reading a study actually, one of my lifters is a psychologist too, that there's people that seek for enlightenment from doing good things and so on. There's like a third group of people that really search to do difficult things and overcome hard things, and that's how they find purpose. And I'm like, I've been talking about that for so long that it's cool that there's a study on it. And in essence, any one of us that shares this love for strength sports and dark waters is like, yeah, we like doing Zen shit, but ultimately in our core, we're like, we want to do something cool and hard and do it. Right. And that's where we're at.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I talk about fun a lot of time, and I'm like, I have this warped view of what fun is, where I think fun is, like, on the brink of and I did not start here, I will tell you that, but fun is, like, almost on the brink of, like, failure or, like,
Yeah.
bad shit happening, right? It's like your fears, um, a lot of the time.
Yes, yes. And
Um,
when did that start for you, you think?
I personally, I think lived in a lot of fear and, like, covering up who I really was because I'm a recovering people pleaser, Mike. So, a lot of portraying myself as someone that other people would like. So when I
Mhm. Of
really or, like, I didn't wanna look bad in other people's eyes. I wanted to impress other
course.
people, and that meant not failing at things. So, I would say probably in the past, like, 5 to 7 years where I'm like, "That's not it for me." Like, this life is not enjoyable. I'm not actually getting value out of life, so I'm gonna start finding shit that lights me up and helps me grow and learn who I am.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great reasoning too. I mean, culturally, it's funny how things kind of mend, right? Because and especially in, at least if I can speak for myself, but I've met many cultures, it's pleasing people and saying yes is like expected. And
Mm.
that is when you said that people please, it took me a very long time to say no because it was just so impolite to say no to things. But it's incredible what that does to you, really, and how it smothers who you really are for quite some time. So that's really cool that you kind of came across that.
Oh, yeah. So thankful, and again, like, I look back at my life and I'm like, "Oh, wow," like, it's, on the other side of things, but very grateful for all of that because it's part of who I am. So,
Absolutely.
I'm curious with so you said slamming 3 bottles of Jameson,
Yeah.
a night to not really drinking at all. Like,
Mhm.
bodybuilding is serious shit. You're, like, at the ultimate discipline when it comes to behaviors.
Yeah.
Did that help you dig, like, a little bit deeper and find some parts of you that you maybe were suppressing with alcohol?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll preface this by saying that I've never been shy to admit to those things. I didn't really have a drinking problem, but I drank a lot. That was it.
Mhm.
But drinking became a problem when it just wasn't fulfilling the holes that I had created. And I'm not dogging on drinking, man. I am not one of these nerds that suddenly starts bodybuilding and is like, oh my God, don't have a beer. I'm like, bro, have five to the face. I will fucking join you when I can. Like, I have no problem. I'm not. You want to eat a pizza and slam 16 beers? I'm like, bro, yes, good for you. It's just, I always ask people, what do you want out of it? That's it. Like, trust me, I've been into some grimy shit, as you know. And it's not that, what ended up happening too was it just became that, and this is the truth, it just becomes loss. I had lost sight of myself. I had lost vision. I had almost lost my father. And it was just one of these moments where stress hit so high. And I'll tell you very personal, but I'm very open about this stuff. My father suffered a brain bleed about 3 years ago. And there were moments in time where again, these things come in pieces, and it really does take a sense of maturity and experiences. When he was in ICU, and it was kind of like, well, your dad can die at any second. I really, really wanted to just drink my stress away, just like anyone else. I just wanted to be drunk and happy or distracted. And the problem with that was, if the last moment was to happen and I was wasted out of my face, I could never live with that. And I love my parents very dearly. And this is one example of many situations. I just given you one that's very visceral in my brain. And the visual of seeing your loved one covered in tubes and your mother crying, and you're like, if I'm not there for this as a man, as a son, I
Right.
can't live with that. And that was one of the first moments in my life where I decided that, hey man, I can't turn to this thing because then I can't be the leader that I need to be. And I've had situations of this, but this is just very visceral.
Yeah.
And that started to compound more and more and more. And that's, I told you, when I realized that if I showed up drunk on his last moment, it would have really killed my mom. Like I think it would have like ultimately hurt her. On top
Yeah.
of other situations, there's nothing wrong with the drinking concept, is how I did it.
Right.
And then that started to transcend into situations where I'm like, okay, this sport is aligning with my life because it's literally pushing me to the ultimate limit of my abilities and what I want out of myself, right? And if you kind of look at that objectively, if you want to be the leanest or the strongest possible, doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on, you're going to have to make ultimate sacrifices. And what it demands out of you is everything. And then that started to become a part of my life where I'm like, okay, if I want to be better at business, be a better partner, be a better leader, be a better son, then it's going to demand more of me. And I started to realize that as much as I miss it, spending Sunday hungover all day is not going to generate the outcome that it is to take care of the people that I love. And I'm not saying I'm not going to drink. Obviously, I'm off season. I'll have some weddings and a couple things here, but the process of that is so ingrained when you're in dark waters, as in any other experience that's hard, that it's impossible for me now to let go of that vision. And I'm not saying it's going to last forever. I'm not saying that at 50 I won't spend a whole day getting drunk on the beach. It's just that what life has demanded of me right now is aligning almost just perfectly with the sport that I chose to express myself. So it's not hard for me anymore to make
Okay.
that decision, right? And this is not even speaking of when you're up there naked and you lose, you really do feel like crap. And it makes you either it makes you angry enough to succeed, or it makes you angry enough to just stop doing the sport. And ultimately that's where I'm at now. So the transition is not that it was easy, because I tell you what, the moment I got off stage last year, I got wasted for 2 weekends in a row at Kentucky and New Orleans. And I was like, this is the best. And then this year I got down and I'm like, no, I really want to be good at this. And on top of that, it's been a very successful year. And I realized, man, the most successful year or 7 months of my life, in conjunction with being honestly some of the most difficult moments of my life, I still succeeded. And it was because of certain things that I kind of let go and changed the perspective on. It was just nothing. Plus, like I say, we're getting paid for this. It's if you're telling me, hey Mike, you get in shape, have a six pack, look good, and you can feed your family and your parents, man, that's a no brainer. It's a fucking no brainer. And
Mm.
that's those things just like they sink in my skull every morning. And that's it. That's what the power of motivation is, right? I hate when people dog on motivation. I'm like, motherfucker,
Yeah.
I got motivation for you. Like it's not a problem, dude. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I just did an episode on motivation recently where I'm like, I want to
Hell
punch
yeah.
people in the face when they're like, it's not about motivation. I'm like, you don't know anything about psychology then. So
Yes. I thank you. I have been talking about this forever. I'm like, okay, bro, David Goggins, yeah, stop. Okay, guy, like you're not the guy. Bro, if you put on headphones and listen to a Metallica song and did a deadlift, that's motivation, you piece of crap. Stop it right there. Stop.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it
Exactly. And the
drives me
people
crazy.
it's like it's about discipline. You gotta want it. I'm like, what do you think that is? What do you think that is at its root? Right?
What do you think the want is right there, pal? Like, but
I
we
love it.
digress, because
We
I'm telling
digress.
you what, I love
Um,
that word.
yes. So you did go to school for psychology, correct?
Correct. I went to Penn State University.
What made you decide to go away for school?
That's such a cool question. When I thought that I was going to just live and die in Miami, and that's just the way it was. I never had anyone in my immediate family go to college. I didn't grow up in that particular exposure. We were a little bit of the kind of upper lower class. So we worked hard. We got whatever job we could, and my brother and my sister didn't really go to college to become anything out of college. So I didn't have that example, right? Just like how some people go to the military because that's what the family does. I always
Yeah.
wanted to go to the military, but I didn't have that push, that example. Or else I would have went to the military. Being a Navy SEAL was like the coolest thing ever. So when we were very young, I was like 17, just turned 18. I was working construction and I was help my mom pay bills. My brother-in-law at the time hired me there and I was, doing what we do. So my brain was, okay, I'll go to college and study stuff for construction and just make money in construction. That was just kind of the I don't want to call it narrow, but that became a very important part. So in essence, my mom got hired by 84 Lumber, which is a big thing in Pennsylvania. And the lady that owns it had a hotel. My mom's a cake decorator and she is amazing. And I don't say it because my mom is just my mom. My mom is arguably one of the most amazing artists, period. And that's where we get the genetics, and she's a beast.
Yeah.
This lady saw her and goes, I need you at my hotel. You're gonna be our decorating. So they bought my mom a house. I mean, stuff that you just never see. My mom is so cute, like just absolutely treated like a true artist. Flown up there, bought her a house, all this stuff. So at the time I was 18 and it was either stay with like without my parents and maybe my brother and my sister both had their lives, or move up with my parents and figure it out.
Mm.
So when I went there, we moved to a small town called Farmington, which is on the mountain of Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Like comparatively middle of nowhere. Culture shock.
Yeah.
My parents didn't really speak English, because in Miami it's just very bilingual city. So it went from that into as an 18-year-old leaving your girlfriend, your friends, your life all behind, which, as 18 is like, my life is over, because you think that's your whole world. But that was part of the process. And I looked up two schools and I ended up going I said, I'll continue my college career. And I was really kind of hell bent on studying psychology. I also wanted to study wolves at one point because I really thought wolves were amazing before it was cool to be a fucking nerd wolf or whatever you were. But anyway, before that was cool, all right, because I will back in Nam when I studied wolves, that's what I wanted to do, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And then I got into chemistry, and I'm like, oh, I am not meant for this world. Let me do what I do best, which is study the mind, and what I was really passionate about. Because it wasn't so much just the wolf; it was just the psychology of the pack, which I loved. The
Wow.
idea of a leader, that the whole philosophy of a wolf pack, and the idea was where I really fell in love with. So anyways, I got into Penn State, was the nearest branch campus, and then I went to main campus, and then that's kind of where I cut my teeth, and I went to like what I thought was TV life, like Saved by the Bell college years. Like I'm like, who am I? In a dorm room partying and drinking out of a keg. That none of my friends did that. I would call them and they're like, bro, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, man, 700 people in a class. Like these white people are the best, dude. They're so nice. And like it was just great. Nobody's getting shot at. It was amazing. And that's where I went to school and I loved it. I that's My college years were arguably some of the best times of my life.
Mhm.
And it did teach me a lot about, I think college has a bad rap. It definitely taught me a lot about doing things you don't want to do for things that you really want to do. It
Uh,
taught me how to communicate with people that were very much smarter than me or adults beyond my years. Like sitting down with a PhD professor who is published and world renowned and explaining something to them is hard. And it's very nerve wracking and very vulnerable, but that prepares you for life. Asking questions, going to clubs, making friends, even something stupid as going into a very annoying frat party and dealing there with not beating anybody up. I mean, that's life. You have to deal with people you don't like. Very opposing views. And, in college, everyone has all philosophies and politics and views on sexuality and drugs and alcohol. It's like that is a mini culture part. I'm not saying you have to go to college, but I think it just gets a bad rap. And it allowed me to learn to articulate feelings, to read, to sit down with a peer-reviewed study, to actually write a professional paper, to engage your mind in a way that is way beyond your comfort zone. And I am very thankful of those years. And it's not like I'm a psychologist now, but arguably psychology is the base. And the process of which I gained my degree continues my education to this day. So I definitely stand by it.
yeah, I love that. You listed so many ways that took you out of your comfort zone and that you had to tolerate discomfort. Like, even like you said, even going to a frat party and not beating someone up, that's hard
Yeah,
to cover.
that's hard, dude.
Yeah.
That's real life. It's like going to a supermarket. I'm gonna punch this person. You're like, no, no, it's okay. But you've been through it, you know. And if you're going through it as a kid, you just learn so much. And I made obviously some of the best friends of my life. And yeah, I had very fond memories. Very challenging, obviously. When my family moved back down to Miami, I was very alone.
Mhm.
But and I had a girlfriend at the time that was obviously very great relationship at the time, but it's still tough. But it's like you learn to have these relationships and you have friends and that you don't speak to anymore. You break up with girlfriends, you don't speak with people you don't, but that's part of life. Like it's such an essential role. And I'm not even talking about the education portion of it, right? Because
Mhm.
you're sitting down with professors that people would kill for 10 minutes with
Yeah.
and you're there with one of the most educated people in your fields, and it's amazing because Penn State was an incredible is an incredible university.
Yeah. And you took full opportunity of that. You didn't take it for granted, it sounds like. So,
No, not at all. No, I mean, what's cool is I was the first one in my family to go to a university and graduate, so I was just so tickled by that. I felt so proud to tell my parents, "Hey, look, your boy made it." Like Michael De La Pava, Penn State University. My mom's like, "Oh, wow," It's a big deal, you know. She told everybody in fucking Columbia, her son, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
yeah. That's is making your parents proud a big driver of what you do?
I would say probably one of the most important things in my life. It's not only making them proud, it's honoring them. I really do think I have some of the most amazing parents in the world. Not that I think my parents are better than anyone else's. It's just like if you meet my parents, if you see them, I speak about them all the time. I'm very proud to be their son. And I've always said that, man, even when I fucked up, my mom didn't find out about it because I just could not have her know the shit that I fucked up on because even as a grown man.
Mhm.
I never wanna disappoint them or hurt her,
Mm.
and it's just that is a very driving factor. I know what it took for them to come to this country and then to even feed us, and just the amount of character it took to raise 3 kids in Miami. It's amazing, and, even recently, just having 3 kids that love them back so much because my sister and my brother, we love our parents. There's no question. It's just a credit to them, so yeah, I'm very, very much a big deal about not only making them proud, but honoring them with living a good, fruitful life.
Mm. I love that extra part you added in honoring them. That's pow
Mhm.
I mean,
Thank you. I think it's important.
yeah, you talk about your parents all the time, like, "I wanna meet these people, they sound cool."
Oh, you love them, man. My mom's a little coffee bean, man. They're adorable. My dad looks like the dad from Up. They're just an adorable. They're like 5'5". I like tower over them. They make me feel so big. They're adorable.
I love it. I love it, and I was like, I now I have to add in because I shit on my mom in the beginning, and I did not mean that because I
No, it's bullshit. Yeah, no, I know. Trust me.
Mom, if you're
Oh my
listening.
God. I curse at my dad all the fucking time because he doesn't really speak great English. So when he comes to the gym, I'm like, this motherfucker ain't doing shit. And he looks at me like, oh, I'm like, nothing, papi. It's like, because I treat him like a bro. My mom, on the other hand, I'm like, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Hi, how are you? Like,
Oh
but
my
my dad, no. Yeah, but it's cool.
I love it. Yeah. I also again, I also have great parents and I can very much relate to that. And I that's another way of thinking about it for me because making my parents proud is such a big driver for me, but also proud in a way that I am living authentically, which that took me a while to get to personally, where I wasn't doing something in a way that I thought they wanted. I always felt kind of like
Hmm.
sheep where I like pursued sport and everybody else in my family, extended family are like doctors and lawyers and stuff. And I was
Yeah, yeah. It's a different route.
um,
Yeah.
but it's cool to see like my parents, like I have such a great relationship with them. And I love that they're in their 70s and they got into the gym in the past
Oh, my heart.
few years lifting. Like my dad texted me the other day. He's like, deadlifted 225 by 4. I was like, "Holy sh."
Oh my God. That's such a credit to you. Well done.
Uh,
I think that's beautiful, honestly.
it's awesome. I love it. So, we get
Yeah, it's funny how we do that. We're always kind of like big kids, and I think that the more you want to make your parents proud, I think that's a great driving force. It's obviously not the GPS, as you know, it can make you what you think your parents want can also make you go down the wrong path. And my mom loves to tell the same. My mom does these little things with her hands. She tells a story. When I graduated psychology, she thought for sure I'm gonna be a psychologist. This is what I'm doing. I was a social worker. This was what I was gonna do. And when helping my gym up, she tells us the truth. She walked in, being a super judgy Colombian mom. She goes, "Oh, but I just had this bare warehouse." And she goes, "Oh, and this is what you're gonna do with your degree from Penn State?" And I was like, "Oh, oh." And I said, "You know what?" And I knew where it was coming from. Obviously, just being a scared mom. And I go, "Yeah." I see. You'll see. And not in a negative, like I'll show you. I'm like, "No, mommy, you'll see."
Yeah.
And now it's like the greatest feeling in the world to be able to take care of her, and she's so proud, like, to see that her son is helping people. And sometimes, man, I think this is true. It's like you have to earn and create people's confidence in you. It just doesn't come natural. It's like you have to really show them. I think when we see of our parents, we like expect them to be proud, and that's part of it. But you also have to fucking earn it. Like you have to be like, because I know how I am. I was like, you got to earn that shit, motherfucker. Like what is this? And that was a big driving force too. It was a very positive moment through what I felt was like almost like a good challenge, rather than seeing like, oh, my mom's disappointed. She's just concerned because she's a mom. But I'm like, hold my beer, because you'll see, this is gonna happen. And now it's happening, and it's awesome. Like I have my dad training in there every once in a while, and I'm like, it's the coolest feeling in the world. I film him all the time because I think it's great, and it's a cool moment.
It is cool. That is awesome. So you opened Battle Axe how many years ago was that? 20?
Yeah, 2012. So it's been 13 and a half, 13.3 years now. It's going to be 14 next. So we just
Oh,
celebrated 13 years this year.
congrats. That's huge.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, super proud.
Yeah. And I mean, this is, I think, the epitome of like culture in this,
Yeah.
your gym space. You've done that so well. So you graduate, like your mom said, you graduated with a psychology degree from Penn State.
Yeah.
You said, well, you went into social work, you said. So what made you transition
Yeah.
into like, I'm gonna open a strength gym?
Yes, that's a great question too. And the transition is objectively, it never saw it happening this way, but obviously once you put the pieces together, there is always a linear path. And when I graduated, I got some odd jobs, working at Barnes and Noble and Toys R like just trying to figure things out. And then when working for my brother-in-law in construction company, and then what ended up happening was when I started getting ready for fighting, I lost a lot of weight. I mean, I became like a fat kid up north drinking beer and, hanging out. And when I came down, my coach was like, well, if you lose it like 60 pounds, it was like a challenge, then we'll get you your first fight. And I did. I lost like 60 pounds in like 5, 6 months. I was really at it.
Wow.
In that weight loss journey, I thought, this is cool. He taught me a lot. He played in the NFL, Wesley Carroll. He was a national champion for UM, a wide receiver. So he was a real deal. And I learned a lot from him, even when I was 14, because we met in martial arts. So when I fell in love with that process, there was a gym opening up down the street, 24-hour fitness. And I said, why not? Like, I'm going to apply as a trainer. Like, I've known stuff. I learned it. You took the test, and lo and behold, I became a trainer at 24-hour fitness. And well, you learn stuff, but you also just become a big giant salesman. Really, that's what it
Right.
becomes to some extent. In that process of falling in love with fitness and, having experienced weight loss and feeling athletic is when I started to really understand that being fit and training people was really something that I loved. I had a great coach. Wes was incredible at many things, including martial arts. So when I got the job as social working that I thought would be my career, it actually being the catalyst to it, because I was a social worker with a senior citizen. So my job was to make sure that if they could stay at home or in ALF and provide services, we were fighting for them to stay in this process. And we were funded by the state to help them get material, nurses, and it's a tough job. Social working is really tough. And with the senior population, you just watch a lot of rough stuff. People with high level of dementia, and I can tell you many horror stories, but mostly, and this is just a true morbidity of it, is like you're watching people die.
Yeah.
And in those lessons and the conversations I had at that moment in those years, the consistent thing always when I would speak to them was, live your dreams, young man, follow your heart, do it. And I mean, over and over. And when you're watching people on their deathbed, basically, because you become even though they may not remember you because some level of dementia, but those that do will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord with me because at the time I was still training people on the side after I left 24-hour fitness. And I'm like, I don't love social working like at all. And I actually, at one point hated it.
Right.
I loved helping people. I loved helping the older people in the family, but not the bureaucracy of it.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I remember the exact moment. I wanted to open up a gym so bad. And I was with my rugby mates and we went to Eastern Europe. And it was like the coolest thing ever. I mean, we were wild, right? And I remember opening up a work email by mistake. And it was just like, do this, do that, do this. And I remember thinking, I'm done. Like it was just that esoteric, singular moment that happens in movies where you just go, it's like an epiphany. You say, I'm quitting. And I told the boys, I'm like, hey, when I get home, I'm quitting. I'm opening up my own gym. Like, this is it. I'm going full time. At the time, we're just trying to figure it out. And they're like, okay, yeah, duh. Like, this is what's happening. You own that stuff. At the time, I had opened up, trying to figure things out, working two at the same time. I had the gym open, but not enough clients. I was all kind of scared.
Yeah.
And I made the full transition into it. And I said, no, man, no more. And that was it. And I just realized that I think following what I truly love was worth any sacrifice. And we dove deep in, and I will always say that it was as morbid as it sounds, but I think morbidity has some level of clarity and presence where it was talking to people in their final years, and they just all said the same thing: follow your heart, do what you love to do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I was out. And ever since then, which the move was about 14 years ago, but 13 years ago is when I opened up my gym with a credit card, my last paycheck, a 28-year-old young man not knowing what the hell to do, right? Because 28, it sounds old enough, but then I had nothing. I don't know how to even pay my fucking taxes as a business owner. Like I had to Google what an LLC was. Like, I didn't have an uncle or a cousin or a friend that had a business. Like I just didn't have that circle of people. And I was like, again, it comes back to, taking that leap of faith, if you want to call it that. Same thing my mom did when she went up there. It was like, I'm gonna figure this out and I'm gonna set this trend. And here we are. And it was a cool, cool feeling. Scared out of my mind when I collected my last paycheck. I'm like, like
Yeah.
now what? And
It's
I
real.
think all of us that take that, yeah, it's kind of scary, man. You're like, oh shit, no insurance, nothing. And at the time, I was dating my girlfriend who I'm seeing now for 15 years, and I was just kind of like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Like, we're gonna have some ramen noodle dinners if you're cool with that. And she was, and here we are.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's
Yeah, man, it's wild.
I mean, but that's powerful. Like, I think that's really, like you said, speaking with people who are essentially at the end of their life, they're dying, and the advice that they give,
It's
that's
deep, man.
deep.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I love old people. It's one of my favorite thing. I love oldies.
Yeah.
It's one of my. I see like little old couple holding hands, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh my
god.
god, like, yeah, yeah, I can be listening to death metal with like blood everywhere, and then I see two old people. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Right
this is the
there.
best. And I always think of my parents, but there was just such. I'm a big component. I think death is one of the most powerful motivators and teachers ever. That's how I've always seen it. But
Right.
having people have the clarity that it is close and still have a great lesson to give you, like that's powerful to me.
Mhm.
And it's struck major chords in my life to make a life-changing action. And I'm still very proud that it came from these moments because, man, when you're looking at that person in the eye, like when you're in that room physically with this human being saying, hey, who knows that life is right there telling you these things? It's not like I watched it on fucking YouTube or read it in a book. Like you're just feeling the presence. I mean, I get goosebumps talking about it. Like you're there, and it's big. It's a big, big deal, and that stuck with me. It still sticks to me. The term "everything ends." Like that's my shit, and that was it. That kind of pushed me in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that as a massive catalyst of everything, and, the big thing you said here is, like, it wasn't that you weren't afraid, like, you were scared shitless when you did all of these things, right? And that's so navigating that, it was your reason, like, deep, deep reasons, and it sounds like trust in yourself that you were
Yeah,
gonna succeed.
Yeah, so you know what's crazy is it's I still don't trust myself.
Mm,
And that's okay because that's how courage is built, right? When you have fear.
mm,
I trust myself to an extent, but I also don't trust myself. It's a challenge, and I think people need to accept that challenge. I do believe in myself, and then sometimes I just don't. I'm like, all right, motherfucker. Like that's how I operate. I'm like, I'm gonna show you, and to me, and I think that's important, and that's helped me build a lot of confidence. And there's certain situations I'm like when you're prepping, I'm like, I take all the food out of the house. And like, why? Because I don't trust myself. Let me challenge myself, right? And it takes time. Just like the first time I didn't my first prep or even my first strongman competitions, I didn't go to parties where there was alcohol because I'm like, I just don't trust myself yet. Like I'm gonna want to drink or eat a pizza. And now it's much better.
yeah.
And that initial moment and that trust, I mean, it took from that challenge. Like I had to kind of put myself in that situation where I had to prove I always say this to my guys. It's like prove yourself to yourself, then prove yourself to whoever you want.
Yeah.
And that moment was huge. And obviously I still challenge myself on that aspect, but that's where I was with that. And I promise you, there is not a moment in life where I will ever give myself the comfort of not challenging myself in that way. I will have to be probably really dead. There's just no way. I am like that. How we are, right? That third person where I'm like, man, everything feels great. I'm like, I'm morbid. So I'm like, either I'm gonna die or I need to challenge myself. Like that's how I am. Like, when you have a good day, I'm like, for sure I'm gonna get hit by a car. 100%. It's just I don't it's just stupid. Like I'm like, I'm having a great day. Something
Well,
fucked up's gonna happen. Yeah. I'm like an old Italian grandma. I'm like, don't fucking, that's how we are. It's just I'm like, I'm in,
gonna put your nervous system just on the edge a little bit.
Let's just push. Let's just push. Yeah, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Oh my god. So you often talk about the way.
Yeah,
It
it's one of my favorite things.
where does that stem from?
So I'm a big history nerd. I think history. I'm a big nerd about everything because it's just I have muscles because I can be a nerd. Yeah, I'm so fucking nerd. But I love history. And when I was a young kid, I remember there was three or four books I forgot to return to the library when this was such a thing. I had a book of Napoleon, Simon Bolivar, Ancient Egypt, and then samurais. And I loved warrior culture always. As I mean, obviously, as a comic book geek, samurais, ninjas, warriors, all that stuff. So, as a samurai, like I guess just a history buff, Miyamoto Musashi was somebody that I've always studied, and his Book of Five Rings is very, very important. And he also wrote, he's very legendary samurai Ronin. He wrote a book called, not even a book, it's a set of rules called the Dakota. The Dakota is 21 rules after you're talking about a guy that literally fought for his life. He has like 50, 60 duels to the death that he won. This guy is a bad motherfucker. And he lives a life of peace. He goes off into the forest to basically write this last book before he decides to pass away. He becomes a man of peace. So he writes these 21 rules of what he thinks life is important. And the last rule is never stray from the way.
Why?
The way obviously could signify many things to many people. To me, I'll obviously personalize it as the way of the warrior. And I believe, and I've always said this, that the warrior is not a moral compass. The warrior philosophy is somebody who's going to do everything they can to succeed with what they think is important and they love to do, which could be altruistic, but it could also be extremely selfish. And that's the life that I lead. I have done extreme selfish stuff and I have done extreme selfless things. But the commitment to that path relentlessly to sacrifice everything, even your very will and life and health is that way.
Uh,
Does not make it good. It does not make it better. It does not make it a thing that everyone should do, nor do I think that one warrior is more significant than the other, right? We can say that a warrior mindset is something you feel, and you've been in a room with people that have been warriors, literally. And you've been in rooms with people that are might as well be warriors. And there's this kind of general connection with them, right? You know that even though you haven't literally shot at another human being, that there is a bond between us because we have that passion, right? And I know firsthand because I have sat with people that I consider true warriors and I am in a room full of these bad motherfuckers, and we're all like brothers. And there's just some connection. And it doesn't matter male, female, shot at, not shot at, you want beat cancer, you're in a wheelchair, there is this connection. That is the way to me.
Wow.
So when I write never stray from the way is my way, but there is your way too. And I think that comes from a genuine honesty of yourself. If you're a person of peace or you're a person of happiness, that is your way. And you should never stray from it. It doesn't mean that you obviously won't, and you're gonna have moments, but it's this kind of guiding star. So I have that tattooed on my back because it is so important to me. And I did it when my to personalize the story because it's obviously I'm a very I like to say like a novel in that sense. Everything has to be dramatic and emotional, duh, because I'm Colombian. And duh, right? When I had my one of my best friends ever committed suicide in 2017, I lost. That's why I always wear something. And I used to always tell him, stick to the plan. That was our joke. And it came from, I don't know if you know Call of Duty, you play zombies, right? And we were playing zombies together. And he was the kind of guy that would see a shiny gun and go after the shiny gun and not get mauled by zombies. I'm like, no, stick to the plan. And that really became the concept of the way. Is like, if I know for sure, if he would have just stuck to the plan, that would still
Um,
have him. And that is ingrained again from a very dark place. There comes great light. And his loss, which was very hard for me
yeah.
first couple years, it it drove this concept of the way. I know for sure. I also know that if I would have been more involved, I could have saved him. And I hate when people, oh, but no, no, no,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, I know I was the one that could have saved him from this moment. And those are parts of the way to me, and it's ingrained in my way. So that I got that tattoo shortly after he passed away, and it's like says never stray from the way from in this dark forest, and it hurt like fuck, and I wanted it to hurt because it's in the back of my neck,
Oh, okay.
and it hurts, dude. And he's like, "Yeah, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Let me just get a cup of water." And I had some painful tattoos, but anyways, to come full circle is that's why stuff has meaning to me.
Yeah.
And when I tell people to never stray from the way, everyone has their way because it's a very scary philosophy.
Mhm.
It should scare you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it has to be full of hardships per se, but it's sticking to that path. And sometimes not doing anything is the way. And that is very, very hard. And when you read Musashi, he's a great philosopher, but then it becomes esoteric, right? Because Musashi was pretty stoic, and obviously like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, and the whole concept of the obstacles, the way, right? The way comes from a lot of this kind of stoic mentality. It doesn't mean that it's absent of emotions or passion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that means to me, and I'll always kind of write that down, or I always will say it at the end of something very passionate. And I remind people, I'm like, your way is your way,
Yeah.
and you should be proud of that. Not that you have to take up arms all the fucking time. Just like my father. My father's a very peaceful, humble man. That is his way. And I like truly revere that. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah.
Like some of my best friends are calm, introspective, stoic people. And I'm like, damn, that's cool. Like you're a real man, like I'm like, wow, as opposed to me where I'm like in your fucking face, but I'm like, damn, but that's their way.
Yeah.
And I like that, and stick to it.
Yeah. The important thing I'm hearing, well, one, like, holy shit. Two, the important thing that I'm hearing in all of this is it's very important for each person to discover what that is and then use that as a guiding light in their life.
Fuck yeah. And I believe I'm a big believer that that is only dug up through moments of extreme happiness and extreme loss.
Mhm.
And I'll say this openly and it always kind of scratches people the wrong way, but I don't believe in balance. I don't believe that there is a balance. So when you sink into something and you're there, take it for what it's worth
Mm.
and find the best moment of it. Same thing when you're at your best. Take it for what it's worth, man, because this is again just my opinion philosophically. There is nothing in the middle.
Mm.
There is nothing to me that's a lesson learning in the balance of things. At least currently in my life, I can openly accept that there may come a time in my life where I'm like, balance is everything. Not right now. And I have learned the greatest value. Maybe like I always say this, maybe in the philosophical process of trying to find balance, just like the process of trying to be perfect also has its value. But there is no perfection.
Hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I find that ability where it's like, man, feel it. And that's your way. That's somewhere in there you're gonna know because it should make you kind of really scared. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I found it. And that's why we as lifters will induce that. It's not like we have to go, you know, to have somebody with a sword or necessarily be at a very level of high poverty or lose someone, right? When we lose someone, the first thing we say is, I didn't need this fucking lesson. Like, I didn't want this, right? But we try to recreate it in some sort of chemical, mental, spiritual, psychological way when you're pushing the limits into dark waters with sport. That's why we love fucking sports.
Hmm.
And we revel in it. And it's okay, right? That's the best part.
I think that especially for a lot of people that I've worked with, lifting weights is such a tangible thing to show people. Like it forces them into those edges and they see what they're capable of and they see what cool shit comes from it. So that's why I love lifting weights so much. There's
Oh,
so many parallels there. And I agree. I think balance is this blown up like magical place that people think exists, and it's
yes.
not one thing. And I think that people really find themselves in those edges of, like you said loss and what
Yeah, like happiness. Yeah, extreme loss and extreme happiness.
happiness or
There
loss.
is, yeah, there is just. I always say that this is just again I love semantics. I'm a big believer in words. I believe things are done in seasons,
Mhm.
and it's just this kind of primal understanding. Nature, people, relationships, love, loss is seasons. Like there is a time. If you want to be real geeky, winter's coming. There is a time to be cold, and there is a time to be full of life, and there is a time to maintain. There's a time where you're going to sacrifice so hard for what you love that you're going to almost lose everyone. And there is a season for that.
Yeah.
And there may be one day a season for balance, but you certainly didn't get there by being balanced. So let's not put one better than the fucking other, right?
Yeah.
It's like when vegetarians go vegan, but they eat meat and steroids for 20 years. I'm like, yeah, hold on. But you didn't get that sweet chest pump from eating beans, bro. Be real with me, like talk to me. But here we are, like don't lie, dog. I know you.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so the thing I really wanted to talk about, and we can kind of end here, as I want to be conscious of your time, is
Oh, dude, I'm having a great time. So
okay,
I'm
great.
caffeinated and I'm great. Yeah. Don't worry about that. I blocked off like 2 hours. I'm good.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, something that you have coined and you've really brought into sport, which I personally hadn't seen a lot of men talk about the mental aspect of things. And maybe that's just because of the people that I hung out with. I don't know. But
That's true. That's very true.
mental hygiene is something
It's my
that
favorite.
you've created and you bring into practice in your coaching. Can you talk more about that?
Of course. Yeah, of course. So it came to the point where sport, life, business started to demand a little bit more quantitative data. And I got really tired of things like outlook, perspective, motivation being completely trunked because you could not find a quantitative representation of it, right? It was all qualitative. And the term qualitative always seems to be looked at as the redheaded stepchild of growth, right? If you can't show me numbers, it doesn't care. Like you don't care. Like you feel good, but how much weight did you lose? Or you're happy, how much money are you making? And that has never been the point, right? If we wanted to be fucking rich, we would have been coaches, right? Like at least for now, it's like, so we find wealth in this. And then of course the riches come after that. And it just took years of finally kind of going, hey, how am I going to take this to the next level? And it really came to me when it's just when I started seeing semantics of like sleep hygiene, dental hygiene. And I'm like, well, how can I coin this in a way where I can communicate this better in a sense of steps and language? So I said, well, mental health, you remember like a few years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, when mental health became like this kind of coin term overused all the time. Everything was mental health and it became this kind of blown up umbrella for everything. I said, that's wrong. And it started to become represented and spoke about people that had no business speaking psychology or trying to be a therapist. Experience does not necessarily dictate you to be a mental health advocate. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fine. So I said, okay, this makes me mad. And that was one thing that I was very openly, passionately against. I in the halls of my gym and on my page, I have a lot of great conviction with my opinions. Outside of that, I won't impose my ideas because that's just how I am. But I was like, no, this is wrong. Let's get some guidelines here. Let's build a structure. And that's when I said, okay, well, what do I think works anecdotally and what actually is being studied out there? And again, psychology is always seen as a soft science, which also pisses me off because it's a science. It's
Yeah.
constant decades, centuries of understanding the human mind, and maybe forever. But there is basis and there's a level of status quo that could be discussed and has been reviewed and studied. So I said, how do I put this together? And that's when I kind of came up with the concept of, okay, what steps can we do like dental hygiene, right? Flossing your teeth, brushing, drinking water, going to the dentist. These are very clear, concise. Sleep hygiene, right? Room at 69 degrees, super dark. There's no problem. I said, what can we do to develop that for mental health and mental hygiene? And that's when I said a few steps. It doesn't take much. And this is something that I think I'll study and build for the rest of my life, which I love.
Right.
And what things like that are peer reviewed that actually have significance in sports. Like, and I say this again, if I'll say this openly, as a coach, I'm not trying to be your therapist. Talking to me may be therapeutic, and doing sports is therapeutic, but I am not a licensed therapist. However, I know there's this correlation between sports and life and feeling better. So why don't we give this person a set of tools and semantics that might help them? Example, visualization, right? We do understand that visualization is a studied concept of success, whether it's sports or business or relationship. How can I apply this to this person? Well, teach them. How does somebody deadlift? Because you taught them to. There's nobody's born understanding how to deadlift. Like nobody's born understanding peer-reviewed studies on what you think is best mentally. There is anecdotal evidence, and then when you tell them, "Hey, this is more than anecdotal.
Mhm.
This is actually science, and we can apply this anecdotally to your training." So things like visualization and communication, rituals, these very topics on concept which you can look at. Just like I talked earlier about that study about people trying to do hard things basically to find purpose. Like these are the studies. So I said, wow, man, let's get this and get this quantitatively, right? So we created a scale, kind of like a psychology test, 1 to 10, that I put under my clients' training of how they're feeling mentally for the day. And
Wow.
we add these up at the end of the week, or we look at different days of the week. If they had a great session and they were at an 8, but they had a really bad session and they're like at a 3 because it's very stressful, we can correlate, at least very simply, that maybe when they're having a bad mental state, they're also going to have bad performance. So they're not blaming not the diet. What do we ask as coaches? How's your sleep? How's your diet? How, how's your stress? But how can you make that in a quantitative state?
Yeah,
Well, there's a
that's
scale
so
now.
right.
It's super easy. I'm like, I'm not trying to make this complicated. I also don't want you don't have to talk about the personal issues, but there is a quantitative scale now and there's data.
Mhm.
And now, at least in the last couple of years, this has become a real big thing. But how do we as coaches communicate this? Well, and that's it. And it kind of came to this state of talking to different tools, right? You're giving this person a set of tools. If I tell you, hey, if you work on your rituals, what's a ritual, right? Like when you go and you wear your favorite shoes to deadlift, the placebo effect is a big deal, right? It's a big deal. We can correlate that a lucky shirt is lucky because you made it lucky.
Yeah.
Your deadlift song is a deadlift song because you made it a deadlift song. Fade to Black by Metallica wasn't created for my deadlift. I made it my deadlift song. And that's what? Psychology. It's motivation. That's perspective. That's a ritual to me.
Mhm.
It's like eating sushi the day before a competition. That's your ritual. Let's identify these things and use it as a sense of a tool set. And then the person's like, you're right. I do wear that. And that's and they get happy and they communicate. So now they start to correlate that into training. They're happy. And then, of course, ideally, think something like visualization, they use when they go to a meeting at work or where they sit down with their partner and have a difficult conversation or where they're trying to get through traffic. We hope that this has a powerful correlation with building their concept in life. And just like, here's a great example with what you're doing with what you see is like you said earlier, like how do you build courage in the strength room? You can't just tell somebody, hey, have courage.
Right,
They're
right.
like, oh, okay, if that was that easy, bro, then yeah. But and this is something I coined prompt engineering. It comes from AI. I learned this many years ago. When you prompt the AI, it learns. When you prompt the lifter, that's how they build courage. So prompting somebody and going, hey, you know why I think you can get 500? Because you did 485 for a three last week and you killed it, Papa. You did great. Here's the video. Here's the evidence. So not only do I think you can do it, but I'm showing you that you can do it. Grab this. You've been through harder shit before. Because trust me, 485 for three is much harder than 500 for one. And you, as a coach, know it. You can feel that energy going like, oh, this motherfucker's going to get it.
Yeah.
And that's prompting somebody. But let's make it a language that you and me can talk as coaches.
Mm,
Just like if I tell you, oh, I'm working on their posterior chain and working on block pulls for 4 sets of 6, about 75%, and we're identifying weak points in the chain of the deadlift. You got that. But if I'm telling you, hey, I've been prompting this lifter, they have a little bit with confidence. So we've been working on their mental hygiene. We're practicing visualization so they can see the deadlift before their brain. So they're studying their stuff. And I've been prompting them with reminding them that they've been through some stuff. And obviously their mental hygiene is very low on deadlift days. So just be wary that this lifter is going to come at this challenge. You're like, okay, I got it. Other than, yeah, this person's is really a mental midget. So good luck. Oh, what does that mean, bro? Like, and I can show you data. I'm like, look, on deadlift day, their mental outlook is really low. So that's something that you're gonna have to work with them.
yeah.
Aside from the skill set of the biomechanics, right? Weak hamstrings, weak posterior, their shoulders are over the bar. We could talk about that all day. But how do we communicate the same way here?
Yeah.
And this is fucking how. Like I know it because this is what we're doing right now.
Right.
And you realize that what that really is just creating a language and creating a set of rules and semantics for trying to simplify the mind because we know that that's very difficult.
Yeah, mind is complex, to say the
Yeah, for sure.
least.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that so much, and I think that again, like, if you can simplify things, it makes it simpler.
Yeah.
And
Occam's razor, always. Yeah.
yeah, and there's so many coaches that I know would benefit from using tools like that because, like you said, like, the mental aspect, stress management, just, I think there's a lot of coaches out there who use from their own experience, and they aren't used to coaching other people, other humans. Coaching humans,
Sure.
you know
Yeah, it's hard. And half the time when so I was very lucky to have spoken about this several times. And I've had people come up, they're like, yeah, I do that. And I go, we all do that. But we're not all talking the same language.
Yeah,
You and me do this, but how do we speak the same language? Because no one has set a standard.
yeah,
I mean, when you say train the posterior chain, nobody was saying that in the 80s.
no.
Nobody said that in the 90s. When we were speaking before West Side, no one even said dynamic effort.
Mhm.
What's a speed day in the 70s? Somebody created this language that we speak.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why don't we create this language at least to some degree on the mental aspect? We all do this. What do we call it? When you hype up a lifter, but you say hype, this person says motivate, this person says cue. I'm like, we're doing the same thing. Why don't we just say, hey, look, we're prompting this lifter, and here's the studies that show that not only positive but objective reinforcement to an athlete has positive effect on their training and their ability to perform, which is a psychological fact.
yeah,
We're speaking the same language, and it's not my opinion, and it's not like I'm changing the word to be fun. This is what we're doing. When we speak visualization, you'll say to an athlete, visualize. Okay, that again, that's a term. How do you teach them that? Hey, look, I want you to sit there and I want you to practice and give me 10 reps in your brain about you successfully picking up this deadlift. On top of that, I want you to visualize the high five you're going to give me when you're done with this successful. Give me 10 reps of each. Get off your phone. Look at that. You just coach that person on how to visualize, and you and me can speak the same language. Because if I say, hey, did you tell them how to visualize on this lift? And you go, yes, I did such and such.
Mhm.
Or if we're speaking a different language, you're like, yeah, yeah, I told them to, to just kind of like think about it. Okay, so we're not speaking, kind of doing the same thing, but that's why I think it's important. I think so that I continuously talk about this all the time because you're going to start to think mental hygiene. You're going to start to think, what am I giving this person as a tool set?
Right.
Other than like just like, okay, you can tell them how to hamstring curl till the cows come home, but how are they practicing their rituals?
Mhm.
Do you ask them about that? Hey, did you, and then you say, like, did you practice your rituals last night for this deadlift? Yes, I ate sushi and I had my lucky shoes. It's gonna be a good day, Pop. I get that.
I love it.
That easy. That's
Yeah.
great. And it's like the same language, so it's really cool.
I love it. Yeah, and the word in my mind is what you just said was tools. Like these people, this is coaching, right? You're providing people with tools where they don't necessarily need you later on, and they can do these things. They can put these things into place, hopefully themselves at some point. Or again, if it's a across the board thing, people are speaking the same language.
Exactly so. Exactly
Love
so.
it. So cool. So you've used this with your athletes for how long now?
So in this terminology, 3 years.
Okay.
And it really got into much more refined because obviously psychology has been the whole forefront of my brain since I started. Because I've been training people for 15 years, but I consider myself a coach the last 13 because I think there's a difference between being a trainer and a coach.
Yeah, I agree.
And coaching involves a lot of psychology. And over the years, like I couldn't tell you that I had something very systematic or defined. It was just what I considered part of the gig.
Mhm.
Now it's like, okay, I discussed it very much when I open up a new lifter and I onboard them. I'm like, look, you have a mental hygiene tab and you have a block for that on there. This is what it is. This is what these numbers are going to signify. I'm going to show you and teach you what I think are the most powerful tools for you. And you might just need one. You maybe just all you need is visualization. Maybe they don't have that capacity, right? It's just like again, it's just like anything else. You start them on a squat, bench, deadlift. Okay, great. Are you going to teach them axle wagon wheel, log press, circus dumbbell, sandbag to shoulder, sprints? Hold on. Like let's just start with one, and then let's practice the same thing. So maybe they might do visualizations for a few months, and maybe they'll do rituals or prompting or communication skills. All these things are super important. And so we put it on that block. And I'd say, admittedly, it started 3 years ago when I started to use this terminology. And then the last 3 years have been refining it. And just like everything else in my life, I'd like to dedicate decades to this becoming something deeper and a little bit more than just like hard and maybe even eventually driving into the studies because there's tons of studies on this. What there isn't, what there's always value on is people like us applying it in the trenches in a professional manner, not just oh, yeah, whatever. No, that's not okay. We take everything else professionally. So why not do a little bit of work? Like, why not study the value of prompting? Why don't you look at a couple peer-reviewed studies and see how that works? Just like we look at peer-reviewed studies on everything.
Mhm.
We have no problem looking at peer-reviewed studies on fucking protein synthesis like a bunch of nerds. But when it comes to the mind, we're like, oh, but it's so complex. It is complex. That's why we need to study it. Like,
Yeah.
and let's understand why that works. And I think that to some extent we all do it. But why not open up a little couple of like you don't have to read the crazy DSM, right? You don't want to, but at least get that kind of value.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that you have created this and that you are going to be dedicating more time into it. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
so cool, so valuable. Um,
thank you.
so in the past 3 years of using that, I'm assuming you've seen a big difference in
Big time.
the athletes. Conf
Yeah, it's been amazing.
What other big things have you noticed, and what have they told you that they've noticed a difference in?
I think one of the greatest values is the communication between client and lifter. I mean, client and coach, or lifter and coach, however you want to see it. Here's why: we're on the same page. And I always tell to my guys, there is such things as stupid questions. A stupid question is a thoughtless question.
Mm.
When somebody asks me in my gym, okay, what am I doing? I go, I don't know, motherfucker. What are you doing? Because I'm like, I'm not going to hold your dick. Like, what are you asking me?
Yeah.
Now, if you tell me, hey, coach, I'm not feeding my hamstrings on this deadlift. I feel like every time I do it, I feed it in my lats. What can I do to engage my hamstrings better? I'm like, that's a great question.
Yeah.
because you put thought into it. So the more educated your lifter is, the more you're doing as a coach. And I always say, I'm only as good as my dumbest client, right? Like that's really what it is. And I'm a big component of telling you why. So what I've seen, I think the greatest aspect of it is learning to communicate on something that is pretty vulnerable, pretty difficult to put into words because all of us have a hard time articulating our feelings.
Yeah.
We have no problem telling you about what macros we're on, what stupid deadlift you do, how you like the bench, and how you have a bicep pump. But when I tell you, can you define how your mental hygiene was this week? Most people fumble until you started teaching them. I go, how's your mental hygiene this week? Honestly, coach, I really haven't been practicing it. I feel like I've been falling behind on my visualization. A lot of my practices are fantastic. How can I help you with this? Well, boom, done. Just like nutrition. Are you practicing your nutrition? Well, I haven't really weighed my food this week. Okay. What can I do to help you weigh that food? You need a new scale. You need me to check in daily. That's where it's become the biggest component of me and my lifters because 9 times out of 10, when you work with me, you know the psychology is going to be a big part of it and the mental aspect of it. That's why a bulk of the people that work with me are like, hey, I'm with you because I also want to develop my mental strength. And I'm like,
Mm,
fantastic.
cool.
And that's the first thing I'll tell. It's not, how do you feel? Right? Because what are they going to say? I feel fine.
Right.
I'll say, how's your mental hygiene on this?
I like that.
Well, I'm really stressed. And I go, what's your stress levels at? 1 to 10. And we define what's 1 to 10. Okay, I'm at a 6. Okay. Have you applied it? How'd you feel last week? Let's look at your chart. Oh, your chart was at an 8. So last week was pretty good. Tell me the difference between last week and this week. That opens up so many doors of communication and it facilitates that. And that's where I've seen the biggest gains and the biggest value of what we're doing here, right? Because obviously the mind is still malleable. So the conversation can go many ways, but that has been huge to me to just simplify a question when I say, what is mental hygiene rather than, what are your feelings? My goodness, that can go so many ways.
I like that. Yeah, it gives people direction and what to actually give you a response on. And I love that you just said there are dumb questions and that is a thoughtless question. I'm gonna use that. Thank you.
Oh, I throw that shit out so many times, dude. I'm like, that's a stupid fucking question. They're like, Mike, what? I'm like, because you didn't think. You just, I go, you know what I love to do too, is my favorite. And to ask me a question, and I'm like, what does your heart say? And they're like, for example, hey, coach, my hamstring hurts. Do you think I should deadlift? I'm like, what does your heart say? And they look at me and they're like, I don't think I should deadlift. Like, look at you figuring things out on your own. Look at you. I'm like, you know the answer. Like, you're educated. And they're like, you're right. And that's a prompting session, right? You know this. You've been with me for 2 years. You understand what you need to do. I understand that you're asking me for my affirmation,
Yeah.
but you need to come up with a better conversation with me. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like if they go, my hamstring hurts. I'm thinking of deadlifting. However, it hurts on the press. So I think I'm going to take this week off and working on my accessories. I'm like, brother, you didn't even need me, baby. That's a great feeling. And that's a thoughtful question.
Yeah, and it develops competence and autonomy, and that's cool like shit.
That's like what we do our job for. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
Absolutely.
god, I love it. So, Mike, what you say is what my reactive voice is in my head, and then if someone asks
Yes.
me a question in my mind, I'm like, "Why the fuck did you just ask me that?"
Yeah, so you fucking serious? Honestly, like I tell people, I'm like, please, I sometimes don't understand how I get away with shit. But I'm always this guy. So maybe this is why. But yeah, yeah, I'm that voice. I'm like, that's why in the meetings and stuff, I'm like, man, fuck that guy. Cause that's what I would say. I'd be like, fuck you. But there's a time and a place, obviously. You know what I mean? Like I'm not fucking
I know that
like
that is you, and I would suspect that the people around you know that it's coming from a place of love and care,
right.
and that's why.
Yeah, it's genuine, right? Like that's the way. That is my way.
Yeah,
Like I really am never going to be somebody that I'm not. Obviously, we're educated enough when to choose certain verbiage, right? Like, and that's something that you come with maturing in sports. There's some people that just don't respond to that, right? So I'm like, hey, can I speak to you? How are you? But yeah, yeah, that initial reaction. So most of the time, I'm like, what a stupid question. Who are you? You know, get out.
oh my god, I love it. I know, and I'll ask the question back to my client as well, and they're like, Same. It's like you knew the answer to
Yeah,
that. Like you just maybe needed reassurance or
of
whatever it
course.
was. But yeah, that's I ask a lot of questions from people and people are like, I wish you just give me the answer sometimes. I'm like, I could, but you're not gonna learn shit if I do
Yeah,
that.
you're teaching them how to think. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's my thoughts, not theirs. Like that's not what
Yeah,
my job is. So
exactly.
all right, Mike. So where can people find you? Plug yourself.
So I love it. Oh, easy. I was kidding. So you can find me at the Battle Axe Gym. Instagram is my powerful source. You can look me up on my website, www.battleaxegym.com. If you go to YouTube, you put the Battle Axe Gym or my name, Michael De La Pava. There is hundreds of old videos there if you want to look at old stuff. But mainly through my Instagram and then my email, of course, the battleaxegym@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I will put those all in the notes as well. Uh, Definitely follow Mike. He, again, like posts some really meaningful things. If you want to get deep and have some thoughts provoked, then do it. He's also will maybe send you funny reels.
Yeah, absolutely. The best comedy, dry and confusing.
I know we bond over our sense of humor from the get go.
Yeah, it's a exactly. I haven't even seen that guy's page in so
I
long,
haven't.
man. I gotta find him again.
I was wondering. I was like, why haven't I gotten
Yeah,
any reels?
I
Like,
I think he stopped for a while, but it's coming back. It's coming
he
back.
had to take a break and he had to get
Yeah,
new material.
for sure, because it's so good.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for joining. I love this
Of
conversation.
course.
And if this episode was impactful for you in any way, even if you just laughed, give it a share, give it a like, leave us good comments, only good ones. We don't make the
Yeah.
and we will catch you next time.